Winning Stage 1 definitely has been a bit of a uplift in spirits after our disappointing year last year. We put in a lot of time to improve our in-game performance as well as early game performance, how we prepared for matches.
Before the start of the last stage, we took a different approach to the game. We had a look at things we felt like we were doing wrong in the way we were practicing, and we just try to make everything that we do in and out of the game as efficient as possible.
We changed up our role structure in-game, heading into the 6 Invitational qualifiers. After a brief run there, it looked promising, looked a lot better, but heading into the Stage 1 of OCN and Apex South, Fisher Guy IGL became available after his previous team disbanded, and we felt it was just an opportunity we couldn't pass up. So we made a roster move, brought him in with about 2 weeks notice, and we ended up winning OCN Stage 1.
I think me joining the Chiefs, they sort of all knew that I was going to be dead weight, and there was a really big responsibility for all 4 of them to step up and really start carrying me, which I think they realized and managed to pull off pretty good.
The way we incorporated Fisher into our team was kind of giving him that freedom. We allowed him to come in and be the IGL of the team and have freedom over how we play.
I think bringing in Fisher Guy as a roster shakeup prior to the season starting was definitely a huge part of our reason for success. He did bring a lot of new ideas in game and out of game that helped us, but I think everyone played their own part towards our success in Stage 1.
I think all the players were already really skilled and talented when I joined. I think just giving them the freedom to really shine.
The reason we succeeded in Stage 1 is just everyone put in the time, everyone put in the effort. There was a lot of hard work from everyone behind the scenes and just showing up on game day, week in, week out. Eventually, we did get to a point where we were burning out, but it all paid off in the end.
Winning the first stage was awesome. I've been working towards winning OCN for such a long time, and I finally did it, and it feels awesome.
So the secret to our success, I guess just making sure that everyone's ready for anything on game day.
I think something that we're doing quite inefficient was scrimming without any goals in mind. At the start of the first stage, we started implementing more of a goal system in the way we scrim, and it's helped so much.
In practice, sometimes I like to get sneaky, give intentional missed calls when I'm droning and just make things really hard on them to, a bit of resistance training before game day.
As the Stage 1 champions, I think there are quite a few good teams in OCN. It's a competitive league.
Yeah, pretty much every team, I reckon, across the board seen a pretty big improvements. So yeah, every game is going to be hard.
It's definitely going to be really difficult. A lot of teams are getting a lot stronger.
They're all tough contenders, and they're definitely going to be looking at us to try to take us down. It's just about playing our own game and trying to do what we do best.
Winning the championship has changed nothing for us. We don't want to get complacent. We have bigger goals, such as winning Apex South.
We're just as ready as we can be.
Heading into Stage 2, we're a lot hungrier. We want to win OCN again, but we also want to push for international events and try to compete there at the highest level.
I'm running out of time. I'm running on a feeling song. I'm running out of time.
And now, it's all on the save. The player heroic.
Welcome to Playday 4 of the Oceanic Nationals, ladies and gentlemen. It has been so far a very fantastic Stage 2 being led by Team Bliss at the top of the standings. We'll see though if by tonight maybe another team could take their place, Scars, because it is heating up. It is very, very close here for OCN at the top of the standings and even to a degree at the lower end of the standings. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. As you mentioned, OCN, always a lot of fun, tightly contested. We only have one team at the moment that is undefeated. We also have the grand final rematch from Stage 1 as well tonight, so a lot to look forward to.
It is, it's going to be a very, very fun night. Let's go and have a look at the standings though and give you guys a rundown as to where we are at so far. It's basically going to be the halfway mark tonight, as Team Bliss are in that top spot. Like I said, 3 and zip, all 9 points in the bag. The Chiefs, of course, defending champions in second, not too far behind. And then Order and Night Scars kind of round out what is a bit of a top 4 here, because the bottom 4 a little bit far behind.
Yeah, it's a little bit split at the moment. In terms of the names that are in each half, a lot of it probably does make a bit of sense. I mean, as we make our way a little bit further down the standings, seeing Wildcard currently in 7th, maybe a little bit of an eyesore, but if this is your first time watching OCN this year, Wildcard, of course, went through a little bit of a stretch there where they were finding some pretty bad form off the back of, unfortunately, Diesel stepping down and Salix taking that spot. In Stage 2, though, however, they have got the new addition onto the roster of Molosca. It is just taking a little bit of time for those cogs to turn, but they have been showing good form in APAC South. They just need to transition that across to try and bump themselves up the standings.
Let's go and have a look at the schedule for tonight's matches. Our 4 games to be played, of course, all best of ones. It is Wildcard versus LFO to kickstart things, and like you mentioned, Guz, they have been performing well in APAC South. You'd almost have to, put this one in as a dub, and if they don't win this one against LFO, things start to get a bit shaky here for OCN. Following that, you've got Rafflecopter versus Order. Who knows what's going to happen there? That is as difficult to predict as really any of the matches tonight. Rhythm Bliss, you would have to suspect, Guz, that should be a win for Bliss.
Well, yeah, the thing about OCN is you can suspect as much as you want, but given the nature of OC's best of ones, predictability is not really the name of the game. I think the way you've prefaced those first 3 games, you're probably right on the balance of everything. We are expecting Wildcard to probably take the first, the second could be a bit iffy, and then the third will go to the side of Bliss. The 4th game, that one's probably going to be an absolute banger. As I mentioned, the grand final rematch from Stage 1, where, of course, the Chiefs are the reigning champs. They took that last encounter. Now they find themselves 2nd and 3rd on the table, respectively. No doubt shaping up to be a close one.
Usually one of my favorite segments, the caster predictions, and it's, well, a bit shaky after last night where I went 0-4 in APAC South. Fortunately, though, we lead the way here in OCN still, Guz, alongside the lovable Sky. We're all 8-4 at the top, and then down the bottom it is Manic Monday and Ducky 6-6. But ultimately, everyone's gone the Pink Bliss this week, because usually in the past, Bliss has been the team that doesn't quite get the love. Of course, against Rhythm, no surprises there. Ducky, the lone wolf for Order there in the Rafflecopter matchup, which I'm a little surprised to see a lot of Raffling Copters. And then LFO. What's going on with Dev?
Yeah, I think Dev is trying to be a little bit cheeky there, going for that upset. My eyes, though, have scanned straight down to the bottom. Depending on who wins out of Chiefs and Knights will dictate who leads the predictions. So I'm going to be on the Chiefs bandwagon tonight, and you and Sky clearly will be backing the Knights, and pretty balanced as well. Very mixed predictions for that. In fact, 3-4, so very, very tight. And again, an indication that should be a really exciting game.
Yeah, and obviously, as we all know, the Raven curse, he has gone for Knights, so that's not ideal for the Knights fans, although for the Chiefs fans, it may pay off in their favor. We've got a big night ahead of us, of course, as you've already mentioned it a couple times, Guz, the championship rematch at the end of the night, saving the best till last. But we bring our attention back now, of course, to our first game for the night. Wildcard versus LFO, 2 teams that are, I don't know even how to say it, I guess vying for some sort of bottom placing of the top 5, around 4th or 5th at best, realistically. For Wildcard, though, Guz, they are a team that has shown improvements in APAC South, but yet to find a regulation win here in OCN.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a slow start for Wildcard locally, regionally. However, their last couple of play days have been really good. They took down 7th Heaven in Playday 3 of APAC South last night, and prior to that, they also managed to take down Order, their Oceanic counterpart. So some decent form there. As you mentioned, though, no regulation win in OCN. Their only victory came against Rhythm, and it was really, really close, an 8-7 victory in the end. So coming down to that final round of overtime. They need to start building some more momentum, though. As we always say, so many fantastic players on this roster. The acquisition of Milo, really, really significant. Not only is he an amazing player individually with his skill set, his mechanical skill, etc., but he also does bring a lot of leadership and just general calmness and demeanor to this roster. And I think that's something that will guide them through the rest of the stage.
Their opponents for tonight, LFO, a team that's been up and down throughout OCN. They got a big victory against Rafflecopter in Playday 1 to open up the season. They went toe-to-toe with Order, 7-5, losing that one. And then they also kind of went toe-to-toe with a Team Bliss that is rampaging at the top of the table. That was a 7-4 loss. So they've had these honourable losses, Guz, but they haven't been able to get over that hurdle and find some wins.
Yeah, that first play day, a little bit of a cheeky dub there for LFO, potentially catching Ruffle a little bit off regard, but unfortunately that momentum hasn't quite, I guess, translated into the last couple of weeks being fruitful. A couple of losses on the board, unfortunately, for them do find themselves just inside the top 5, at least for the moment, because that win was in regulation. That does pitch them ahead of teams like Ruffle and Wildcard, who only have 1 win in overtime, as they only claimed 2 points. So I think the goal for LFO in this matchup is just try and take it up against Wildcard as best as they possibly can. I would argue that Wildcard are the stronger roster, but if LFO can even just scrape 1 point at maybe even a regulation, rather an overtime win, that really does set them up nicely in that top 5, because again, keep in mind, top 5 make it into that gauntlet playoff format.
Yeah, and look, I think LFO is a team that's capable of being able to defeat Wildcard. Wildcard, of course, while they had a very good APAC South showing, yesterday, they're still a team that is going through a bit of a rebuilding phase, and so they're going to have some moments where there's some down moments and there's some good moments. Obviously, for most teams that are improving, it's not always just a straight line to the top. Let's go and have a look at the map vetoes, though, guys, and I'm expecting Consulate to show up at the end. It's
yes,
not.
Wildcard, I love you.
Wildcard coming clutch. They take it out for us. Thankfully, we've had it 4 times in a row for us two. Clubhouse is where we're going to be heading to kickstart OCN Playday 4.
Look, if I had to pick my second least favorite map at the moment, it might as well be Clubhouse, because that's probably the second most played map at the moment in OC. But hey, it's better than Consulate. So sick of seeing that map. I have no doubt we'll see it at some stage tonight. But Clubhouse, I mean, we say it time and time again, it has been in the map pool for such a long time. Very stratted out on both the attack, both the defense. We know what to expect round in, round out, and it does come down to which team can minimize the amount of mistakes they make, do really well in the mini games, many of which do take place around the objective on this map, and just execute cleanly. So on the balance of everything, neutral territory for both of these teams. As I prefaced earlier, I do expect Wildcard to probably edge out LFO a little bit here, especially on a map like Clubhouse, but you just never know in OC.
Yeah, I think Wildcard should be feeling very comfortable here with the Clubhouse against LFO, but as you said, who knows? Whether it's APAC South, whether it's OCN, it's always very difficult to sort of predict these things, and you can go 4-0 or you can go 0-4 in your predictions, of course. So it's difficult. It is difficult, but you got to do it nonetheless. The big thing for me is the LFO's most recent history in Clubhouse is not ideal. In fact, they haven't actually won it for, what, months? Years? I don't even know at this point. It's not even on Dev's match tracker, guys, so that's not a good sign for LFO. Hopefully, for their sake, they can maybe turn it around here against Wildcard as we're finally underway to kickstart Playday 4 of OCN for Stage 2. Wildcard versus LFO. Let's go to Clubhouse.
Yeah, I guess it is a little bit concerning when you raise the match history, considering LFO have lost this map twice in OCN Stage 1. That was against Ruffle and Order, a 3-7 and 5-7 loss respectively, but maybe over the break between stages 1 and 2, LFO have drastically improved on this map and they feel confident to back themselves in. Now, in terms of the bans, we would expect a hard breach taken off the board. Habana taken care of by Wildcard. She is incredibly potent on this map. Combine that with the Thatcher will make attacking a little bit trickier. LFO, though, of course, willing to take that Thatcher off the board. They are starting on the attack first, so they must be feeling confident.
We're going to have beautiful statistics down the bottom as well as the attacker ban rate here for Clubhouse. And yeah, I mean, the Thatcher off the board, as you can see, 43%. No real surprises there. For the defenders, though, Kaid, Mirror, Mute. I mean, that's really take your pick of the bunch in terms of the 3 there, percentage-wise. Valkyrie's a good option as well. Final ban, it is going to actually be the Valkyrie. Speak of the devil, and it will appear. And those are going to be our bans for this matchup. Wildcard on the defense first, LFO on the attack.
Nothing in the ban phase standing out as being too wild. I mean, maybe Valkyrie being taken down is a little bit more unusual in the likes of Clubhouse, but hey, either way, Valkyrie potent on almost every single map, and the attack not wanting to be forced into the IQ pick. And talking about some spectacular attacking selections, Deptra will stick the fuse, or at least reveal the fuse. May not actually stick it, it could just be cover for a 6 pick. Fortunately, it will be. I wouldn't have minded seeing maybe a cheeky fuse on kitchen floor in the kitchen hallway, for example, could be used to clear some utility down below, but either way, he will go for a safer selection onto the sledge.
And for Wildcard, it's about starting off strong and continuing their APAC South form over here towards OCN, and because it is important, you know, you can't just sort of focus on one. It makes it difficult, of course, but having to sort of switch from that APAC South mindset and then come back over to OCN, but I think you can almost also use it really as a benefit being able to sort of practice a little bit here and then bring that practice over to APAC South and a bit of vice versa. Suddenly you've beaten 7th Heaven, guys. You've got a bit of that form, bit of that momentum, and then you can bring it over into the matchup against LFO.
Yep. Well, Wildcard, we know that, I believe it was Dev that mentioned it in APAC South, not particularly willing to go for the SSG roam, as it is so said. That's not really their style of play. They'll reinforce the hatch off, play down in towards site, and lean more into their information gathering. I mean, they do have the Echo on the board, and Molosca as well, with those Banshees as well will slow down that push from LFO. It does give the attack a little bit more free reign early round, but maybe with Mute Jammers being placed around by Geo, LFO could still maybe try and roam clear, which will slow them down.
89% with that community vote in favor of Wildcard. No real surprises in that position, unless you're Dev Marta and you're going for LFO in this game. A little surprised that Ducky hasn't gone for LFO either. Tepcha makes his way into logistics, and good start for LFO if they can just clean sweep, top floor, make their way down, clear a lot of this utility, find any roamers, and get to work early. That would be ideal. That time management has been a factor for a lot of teams in OCN and APAC South, where they sometimes struggle for time. Take a little too long to get going.
Well, Hills is freely now given reign over Bar, and the rest of his team will drone ahead. Scouting for maybe any info you're gathering inside of Kitchen, just making sure the coast is clear. Now, they do need to be mindful, LFO that is, as they enter Kitchen. A couple of players down below with Nitro cells. 2 of them already have been expended, and there we go, 1 will detonate. That's Geo onto Deptra. That's really well played there by Wildcard to get their first pick in the round.
Yeah, and pretty vital as well when you're going to be playing basement on Clubhouse to get that opening pick as a defender. So some teams do look to play a bit aggressive, and at times, you know, peeking up main stairs and trying to find a pick and then go back down and turtle with 5 against the 4. Makes it difficult for the attacking team when they do eventually look to push onto the sites, guys, where they can't really get into that trade. Because if you get a kill and then they get a kill, obviously Wildcard's going to eventually win.
Wettables from up above, looking down through the vert, seeing if he can catch anyone from Wildcard off guard. Meanwhile, AFX will throw 2 Summers onto the hatch in Bar. That would be enough to open it down in towards Moto. He transitions control over towards bot main with 1 Summer left. He might be able to use that to open an angle towards Black Box. Difficult to ascertain as to where LFO want to push, but Hills is prepping the Ash Ball rush. That could be the play.
35 seconds remaining. LFO just going to send it straight in. It's AFX who finds the pick onto Imurin, and that's ideal. It brings it back to a 4 versus 4, and now watches the player inside of dirt. There's a shot over towards Sushi, who is obviously trying to get that diffuser down. AFX is now down himself. Daxter with a big pick. Sushi actually getting off of the plant, and he does get taken down as well by Molosca. And Wildcard are pulling ahead here late into this opening round. Wettables trying to salvage this, but feels as if too much has already been done. And yeah, Molosca coming up big. He is in form right now. So is Wildcard, and they will take this opening round.
Hills isolated over towards main stairs. The timer will run out. Wildcard take the first round, doing a good job in shutting down that push. High risk there from LFO, trying to go for the Ash Wall rush. I mean, sometimes it can throw the defense off guard, but Wildcard clearly ready, able to shut that out. The use of the smoke canisters was really well done, and the communication clearly switched on there for the first round, and I'm sure they'll be happy with how they, I guess, pushed back that attack.
I'll head over to Gym Bedroom now for the second round, and yeah, I think Wildcard should be happy with that. LFO didn't necessarily do too much wrong. I think when you give that opening pick up to Wildcard, it makes it a little bit difficult, and yet they still were able to push onto site, get a pick back, make it a 4 versus 4. Obviously struggled to get the plant down. That's just the full credit to Wildcard. They played it well. Didn't really do anything too crazy. Pretty stock standard Clubhouse defense down on basement. And as I said, we head up to Gym Bedroom now for the second round. And I mean, you kind of expect Wildcard on the defense, guys, to win the majority of the rounds and probably have a 4-2 half. We've only had the 2 Clubhouses so far within the first 3 play days. Now it actually ties Consulate with this game being played out at 3. and that's Consulate as well, also at 3 gameplays. And surprisingly, the stats that we do have from the Oceanic Nationals, 10 attacking round wins on Clubhouse, 8 defensive round wins. So hard to just read the actual numbers and say, well, it's suddenly attacker-sided. Obviously, the games themselves, you look at the actual matches that were played. One of those being the Chiefs auto stomp, right? That was a 7-2, courtesy of Chiefs' amazing attack. So that kind of skews a lot of the statistics.
Cheeky setup here from Wildcard, employing the Goyo to set up a couple of those Vulcan shields. I mean, one on the bed is a little more common, but that one just planted straight in the middle of the bedroom is a little bit more unusual. That's where Vinny's posted up at the moment, and I guess that offers some protection from the jacuzzi angle as well as maybe the windows as well. Either way, though, pretty interesting. We'll have to see late round if that does strengthen the defense here of Wildcard. Their opponents, though, in LFO, doing a pretty traditional sweep here. They open up the CC wall, and Wettables from down below can cook a grenade. Milo needs to be careful, gets taken down. Now, of course, no points enabled on the Pro League HUD, so Wettables likely won't know that he downed his opponent, but LFO should be able to reap the rewards of that later because Milo is now so low.
Yeah, and that's the main thing, and glad you touched on that there, is that despite not getting the actual kill, or even having that knowledge, Milo's now low for the rest of the round. So it's still kind of worth it. You're trading that nade for 75% or 80% of Milo's health. Minute 48 on the clock. Need to work on this jacuzzi wall. Depth charge is going to peek in. Was a player actually just on the outside of the logistic office doorway from Wildcard. This is where you would almost expect them to be aggressive, look to peek, and look to find a pick onto LFO and get that man advantage. Emerin inside of logistic. Always just seen the Gemini.
Yeah, pretty aggressive here. A bit cheeky from Emo. Does deny Wettables' ability to gain more intel, though, with that clone, which is really well played! Oh my god! Pat! Good night. Depth try. Almost taps the second there onto Sushi as he cooks a nade round in the corner. Dangerous territory here for LFO. Pat is stationed very nicely in gym.
Oh, Hills has got to be so careful. If Pat is landing those sort of shots, he is going to get pressured. The Nitro salve, though, it's perfect. Actually, it's from Vinny. I think they both threw one out at the same time. And it was Vinny who ended up getting the reward. That's 2 early kills now. Well, there's only 45 seconds left in the round, and I think this might be round over for LFO. Sushi, the Banshee, slowing him down, expecting expecting Wildcard to push out. AFX is able to get at least one back here. Has started strongly, but he does go down anyway for it, so it's only 2 up for LFO inside of the final 30 seconds. Still do have to be careful here. Wildcard, though, of course, with a very low health Moloska, but they should both swing out here. Only needed one in the end. It was Moloska, and it is Wildcard that is going to go up 2-0 here in the opening stages of this match.
Last-ditched attempt here from Hills. 10 seconds left. He needs to find 3, but only has a tiny wee bit of HP to work with as he peeks outside the breach, enters in, and the time, of course, will expire. Wildcard winning a second round on time. LFO really struggling to get a foothold on site.
Yeah, I mean, they dealt with Jacuzzi Wall pretty easily. I think the biggest takeaway was Pat's defense inside a gym, and being able to land that pixel headshot was, well, the difference maker. Unfortunately, we've got replays here as well, guys.
Oh, what's a replay?
I know, it's incredible. Really good nade from Wettables to open up the round, but that headshot alone and that kill basically seals the fate of LFO.
Yeah, that's nutty. It was a good play from Wettables. I'll give him credit early in that round. That was actually a really nice frag down below onto Milo, but as I prefaced, they had to reap the rewards of that late round when trading out, and Milo was basically guaranteed to be a free pick, but unfortunately, LFO, I guess, fumbled before they could reach that hurdle. They were never in a position to really set themselves up nicely, and Pat popped up, said hello and good night, and from there, LFO just picked the problem.
And a chance for Wildcard now to go around the world and get all 3 sites and get out to a 3-0 lead, which would be not ideal for LFO, because Wildcard are a team that is starting to gain that confidence and to find the improvements within themselves. And, we spoke to Vinny yesterday, and, he mentioned that despite this being some sort of rebuilding phase, that doesn't necessarily give them leeway for poor results or to even, have a similar season as to what they had in stage 1. There's no excuses So yes, they're going to have growing pains with Molosca coming into the roster, but they're just too talented to have yet another poor stage. And well, they need a win here, and LFO is just sort of the lamb to the slaughter.
It would seem that way. Of course, we don't know just how Defend decided this matchup will end up being, with Habana and Thatcher both taken off the board. The attacks will naturally be difficult, but if Wildcard can complete this round the world trip and do it in such confidence as they have in the first 2 rounds, it really doesn't bode well at all for LFO, who are off to a bit of a sluggish start. That said, it only does take a couple of good plays to find yourself back into any matchup. I'm looking at players like Hills to maybe step up. AFX as well has also been off to a decent start. But, I mean, they're also facing a roster of 5-star players in their own right on the side of Wildcard. There's Hills. He finds the first onto Pat. Narrowly misses a second there. I believe that's Geo over the top of main stairs. In fact, no, he's over behind the chassis. In case he actually maybe repositioned. I'm not too sure. Either way, Wildcard are now on the back foot. It's the first time they've found themselves in this position on this map. Now we get to see what they're made of.
Just have to wonder there if Wildcard realized that LFO had an entryway into Con, and Pat making the run that he did kind of suggests that he wasn't too phased if there was a player in there or not, and whether they had knowledge of it. For a wild run, and does get caught. Obviously the magnets won't be able to be thrown out later on in the round, so that's going to be a bit of a hindrance, especially if everyone's going to be playing top of rafters. Look out that Gemini avoidable, so that's going to be recharging now. 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock. Oh. Hills with a Claymore kill onto Geo. That is not ideal. And Imran is now starting to feel that pressure. Couldn't even get the kill onto Sushi. Got him low, but not low enough. And this is a very fantastic round from LFO thus far. Could change 4 versus 2. But Vinny on the clash isn't going to be able to really give what firepower, I guess, here for Wildcard. It feels like it's down to Molosca. Yeah,
Milo's sharp, but he has to go for a long rotation, and they'll ultimately need to find 4. Vinny can try to delay time as much as possible, but it's still going to be tough here for Wildcard to close out this round. That said, Milo and Con does find 1, but there's still 3 left alive as AFX will stick the plant. Sushi goes big. LFO take the round, and Wildcard caught off guard.
Yeah, really important that they were able to deal with Vinny there just as Molosca got that kill, because if Vinny was still up on that clash, would have been really a nuisance, and then you've still got to deal with the roaming Molosca. But they take care of the clash, and then, yeah, they have the numbers. It was a 3-on-1, and Molosca was never going to be able to get it done from there. Really, really good offense from LFO. Wildcard, a little sloppy on the defense there, if we think back to Pat at the very beginning of that round, you know, running around inside a cache and past that Con doorway, just gets caught. That's a pretty easy opening kill for LFO, and they're able to capitalize.
Yeah, Pat caught sleeping. Guess he got a taste of his own medicine from the previous round where he put his opponent to sleep. Either way, though, that does make this matchup a little bit more interesting. It did feel as if Wildcard were able to take that previous round, that they'd start to run away with it a little bit, but LFO put the foot down, which is awesome to see. Not going down too easily in this matchup. Basement, though, will be tough. Again, Habana taken off the board will make those hatches pretty tricky to open. That said, Deptra on this occasion does stick the fuse, and with that secondary hard breach, that does enable a little bit more flexibility here for the attack. Hills as well has stuck the Ying, so we may well see a similar style to execute with that Ashwell Rush, or something similar to that effect where they attempt to overwhelm sight. And with those Candelas in hand, Wildcard might find it trickier to push them back.
And this is really what you want to see from a team like LFO, where they try some different things and mix it up a little bit, try and find an avenue forward, and especially on a site like Basement on Clubhouse, where it can be difficult. Also obviously want to clear out and get control of Kitchen. Deptra's going to be one to watch as well on the fuse and see what nuisance buggery he can get up to here for LFO.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser. A bomb
Geo taken low. Deptra trying to do some pain from above.
Oh, Milo.
Milo and Vinny will connect. 1 apiece, leaves it in a 3-on-5. It's been a devastating start here for LFO. Wettables at least find something back with the G36. That's an impact.
That's a big impact.
Not sure if it will be enough of an impact, however. Still a long, dangerous road ahead in this round for LFO.
Yeah, it certainly is. They've still got heals for at least those Candelas and that rush play with Wettables and Diana as well. You can obviously still use that Gemini, get a bit of information. I think the biggest takeaway here is the fuse charger's not going to be able to clear much utility down below inside of Arsenal and make it easier for Hills, who now is already having to think about pushing down these main stairs. Candela, one goes out, throws one over towards Moto. There's still 1 minute and 15 seconds here. This doesn't have to be a rush for LFO. They've still got time, but obviously you don't want to leave it to the last second.
Still 6 drones remaining here for LFO, so if they want to try and gain some intel, they could. Off the back of that pick as well, that might be the play. Plenty of time to work with here for LFO, and with Veloska, as I mentioned, down, it does effectively leave this in a 3 versus 3. Now, Pat's aggressive over towards Moto. If he's not shut down, he could, of course, have a big impact. And Milo hasn't been finished off. Vinny will commit to the res, that shield offering a little bit of additional protection, and no one from LFO able to follow that up. There is a late nade, which does eventually shut down Milo. Now, Vinny is really under the pump. It's a triple for Wettables in this round. Make it 4. Now, Pat needs to go big over towards Moto, but there's nothing he can do. Hills finds the headshot, and LFO take the round.
Ah, beautifully done. Wettables, 4 kills for the round. Feeling good. LFO 2 rounds in a row, and yeah, that's why you don't count teams out after they do go down to a bit of a deficit. I mean, it was only 3 versus 4. It wasn't impossible for them to, bring it back, and they still had some tools, and that's what sort of wanted to touch on. Hills with those Candelas, able to still push in and make something of it. I was a little bit surprised that they were doing it with about minute and 15 seconds to go, but I guess by being proactive and pushing in early and being the team that's, I guess, being the aggressor in the situation, it works out really well for LFO in the end, and they get their rewards for it, and it's 2-2, and suddenly for Wildcard, that really could start, now has some blemishes to it.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Well, I said in the last preparation phase that this match was starting to get pretty spicy, and now I think it's basically confirmed that it's going to be pretty spicy. 2 apiece, keeps it nice and close, and now Wildcard, I guess, are the ones that need to respond.
Well, before I get yelled at, I already missed my cue for the last Samsung plug, so I'll do it here. I would like to, of course, big thank you to Samsung. They've been amazing to have on board for Stage 2 of OCN. If you guys want to check out their latest range of NVMe SSDs, simply type !SSD in chat and get on board.
5 seconds left.
Do it.
You won't.
Attackers must locate and defuse a bomb.
Either way, LFO are on board here to give us a cracking game to kickstart Playday 4 of OCN 2-2. We kind of jokingly said prior to going live, guys, it was going to be an 8-7, 8-7, 8-7 sort of night. Maybe this could be the beginning of it.
It may well be. I do have a couple of energy drinks in the fridge, so I'll be good to go. Could be a 1 AM finish for us, but hey, can't complain. Watching some high quality Siege gameplay, which is what I'm all about. Oh, Nitro Cell. That's a cheeky early one there from Wildcard. Now that was placed on the Moto floor, I presume, by Milo, who's now retreating back. He doesn't have a Nitro in hand, so you can only guess that it was him that pre-placed it. Or, in fact, maybe even actively tried to play it. Oh! Deptra! Oh! Milo! What a shot! Deptra just caught absolutely off guard, looking the complete wrong direction after he opened the line of sight. Well played there by Milo, and Wildcard now have the early advantage.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Against a team like Wildcard, you can't give them any sort of glimpse, any sort of little favourable play. And Gemini's going to go. And a lot of time as well still for Wildcard to close this round out and fix the issues that they had in the prior round. Sushi getting to work on this hatch inside a bar. A lot of time for LFO, though, to still get back into this one, as they did in the last round. You definitely do not want to be counting these guys out. You suspect, though, that Wildcard are not going to allow the same mistakes to happen as they did in the 4th round.
Pat going 1 and 3. Bit of a slowish start for the man, but we know that Pat can pop off when required, and obviously his primary role isn't to find kills, but Emo Rins can be. Hills, though, the aggressor, finds that kill, catches his opponent off guard. That does equalize things. It's a 4 versus 4. LFO do have decent utility to work with here, and Hills has 2 smoke bolts that he can try to employ for the execute as well. Now, they do have short control. I don't know if LFO are aware of Geo's position. If the mute swings wide, LFO could be caught off guard.
35 seconds remaining on the clock, and yeah, Geo's going to be a big play here, and he does. He tags up AFX, but he's able to live, get out with his life. Nade over towards Moloska, over towards Blue. Pat mentioned him before, maybe this is his moment to get involved. He's got 2 nades, ends up just blowing up the mute jammers here. Can he fix this mistake? He's trying to make it very difficult to open up that church wall. Vinny getting pressured heavily as well. Out of gas babes, those are no longer available. It's Geo who finds the pick on a Sushi, and now those trades will ring up around the map. Hills can't really even get into the doorway to pick up that diffuser and try and stick it down. That's a big round win for Wildcard.
Yeah, really well played there by Pat. Does show up in the late round, and more so, honestly, a little bit of a disappointment there for LFO. You shouldn't be allowing that player to be so aggressive on the main wall. I know, yes, it was impact tricked, which makes life really difficult, but ideally, you want to make at least a couple more lines of sight with the Maverick and have someone maybe bot main, try and pressure that location. No one should be able to sit on that wall safely. As well as that, LFO also went pressuring Blue, which meant that Milo, despite, you know, being pretty vigilant and making sure that he wasn't getting flanked on those locations, was ultimately pretty safe, and in the late round there, was able to clean up. So, look, well played there by Wildcard. LFO not quite having maybe enough time to mount enough pressure around the site, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. However, I do think them having already 2 rounds in this half is pretty passable, and they could still get a third.
Yeah, I don't think you would be too displeased with even a 2-4 half here for LFO, but as you said, it's a question as to whether or not is this going to be a defender-sided matchup? Could it be mixed? Could it even be attacker-sided maybe, depending on how Wildcard go in the second half on their attack? That would not be ideal for LFO, but I think this is the time for Wildcard where it's about getting down to old formalities where, you know, you see the teams like Knights and to a degree even Chiefs, they get these sort of 4-2 leads and then they run away with it, and you typically will see, you know, scorelines like 7-3 or 7-4 when they have a bit of a comfortable game. Right now, this is the make or break. It's the fork in the road. Do Wildcard make this a comfortable game, or is this going to go the distance?
And we are seeing a pretty similar defensive lineup here from Wildcard. Again, they're bringing that Goyo with those 2 Vulcan shields in the A-bomb site. And I mean, in terms of the approach, it's also very similar here from LFO. Early in this round, AFX will deploy 2 Salmas. That creates that line of sight in towards CC, or at least an attempt to. Sushi can clean that up and remove those mute jammers by using his torch. AFX tries to find those jammers with limited success so far. Does eventually pop one though, and that will allow both Salmas to detonate, but it has been impact tricked. Really well played there from Wildcard. Now AFX has to use his final Salma to try and get a line of sight. He does pull it off. Hills, meanwhile, through all of that distraction, will make his way up main, but forced back down. A pretty crazy start to this round, but Wildcard arguably have the advantage.
They certainly do, but they don't have the kill yet, really. LFO low, though. 3 of them wettables, Deptre, Hills, all taken quite low. In fairness, though, Wildcard in a similar predicament. Vinny is in that sort of position where you could breathe on him and he'll just fall over and die. Geo and Moloska, Imran, all beaten up. In fact, to make it easier, Pat, Sushi, and AFX are the only ones at full health, and we've got a minute and a half to go. That kind of says everything about this round.
Yeah. Someone needs to unleash Thunderbird into the server, and we can see everyone heal up. But unfortunately, she is in competitive quarantine for at least 3 months. We'll have to wait a little while until we see her in the server. Nonetheless, though, that's all hypotheticals, and talk about hypotheticals, the question now remains who is able to win this engagement, this mini-game over towards top main. Now, Geo is such a strong gunner, has been for the longest time, but Hills has been pretty red hot in this match so far. We'll put that on pause, though, as LFO pressure now the Jacuzzi side of the map, and Gemini gets sent in by Wettables, gains a little bit of intel, but Wildcard are aware of that presence.
Yeah, and the difference last time was Pat in this position over towards Jim. This time, though, he gets shut down. Sushi's ready and waiting. Gets the headshot. Bit of revenge for one of the earlier rounds. Imran, though, with a trade back at least onto Depture. Makes it a 4 versus 4 late into this round with 35 seconds on the clock. Imran positioned over towards bedroom now, is watching. Has a good little angle in towards Jim on that jacuzzi wall side. It's Wettables though who takes out Geo and regains the advantage for LFO.
Vinny is so low on HP. Single bullet will take him down, but Milo offers his support on the Malusi. Emo Rinse going absolutely huge. Wettables taken down on the Vault, and now Hills is left in the 1v3. Yes, he got control of the eastern side, but it's too little, too late, and Wildcard will close out the half.
Well, LFO obviously wondering where it all went wrong in that first half. Bit of an early tactical timeout at the halftime break where they can just sort of go over things a little bit, game plan what they're going to do defensively against Wildcard themselves. They're not in a horrible position, 2-4 off the back of a defensive half for Wildcard. We've sort of seen this time and time again, right, guys? This is as normal as it really can get for Clubhouse, and now it's just for... And I do like this tactical timeout from LFO at this point because you can almost set up your half and your defensive half.
Yeah, for sure. I think it offers a really good opportunity for them to just mentally reset. And to be honest, the first half was really not that bad. Most of the rounds that they lost were really just exaggerations of bans, which are making things a little bit trickier. So assuming that that's in LFO's game plan on the defense and they look to really exploit that Thatcher-Habana combo and make life really challenging for Wildcard using things like the impact tricking in combination with the mute is just one limited example that Wildcard were using really well. If they can employ similar tactics in their defensive half, I don't see any reason why this match couldn't continue to be really close.
Church Arsenal basement will be the location of choice for LFO to start their defensive half. Wildcard go on to the attack. Vinny on the Jackal is not too surprising, I guess, to try and flush out any roamers above, expecting most likely that this is going to be basement, so they can, of course, I'm imagining Wildcard's just going to go for that top-down sweep, and the Jackal's going to help that.
Well, yeah, LFO have brought the castle, they're popping the bar hatch, so 100% this is going to be a roam from the defense, and with the mute, for example, on board from Sushi, making sure that you have Jackal is really smart from Wildcard, will help aid in that roam clear and make sure the coast is clear. Now, there is a small possibility that Wildcard could bypass this entire setup, going for something like a Blue Rush. That is something we do see from time to time, but I would anticipate Wildcard to be pretty calculated here and do their due diligence, clear out the roam. Pat is being spawn peaked, but will survive.
I will survive. Oh no, I don't want to get
Don't ever do
DMCA.
it. Don't ever do that again.
Good to see the aggression, though, from LFO. And those are the little things that can come out of these sort of tactical timeouts, like, as you said, mental reset, or just even sort of setting up what they're going to strategize, whether it's even for just this 7th round or the half as a whole. LFO are a team that can easily get back into this. They're only down 2 rounds. They're on the defense now, and they're being proactive. Already saw it with the spawn peak onto Pat, making it difficult for Wildcard to even just get in. This is like, are we on consulate? What's happening right now?
Oh, Emo wins that engagement. Wettables, even though he swung, does not come out on top. K1A as well, such a strong gun there on Vigil, but still not enough in the end. Now, Hills is a little bit isolated at the moment. Could be caught off guard and is clean work
Too aggressive
from Wildcard. And now LFO need to try and hunker back down towards the site. I assume all 3 members have made it back safely, but nonetheless, Wildcard have plenty of time to work.
Yeah, and that's probably job done. I mean, LFO down to 3 players. Yes, you go back downstairs and you hold out. But Wildcard's got the next minute and a half to do as they please around the rest of the map. They'll obviously quickly sweep out, make sure there's no one hiding around upstairs, 2nd floor, 1st floor, then they'll get to work. But it's kind of job done. Ultimately, though, I think for LFO, they probably didn't do anything too wrong. I mean, should Wettables be peeking that Kennel's wall? Maybe, maybe not. You get that kill though, and suddenly it's a different story. And the idea is usually to just find that one kill, make it a 5 versus 4, and then go back downstairs. And ultimately, it just goes the other way. And sometimes you got to make those plays, guys, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a zombie horror movie for LFO as they barricade themselves in and say a quick prayer, because that's all that can really save them at this point. Wildcard, so much time to work with, utility abundant as well, and Milo will just nail it home. Deptra taken down. Sushi and AFX now to try and push back this onslaught. They haven't quite been under the pump just yet, but with only 25 seconds left, there's no doubt that will be coming shortly.
Yeah, 2 versus 5, 20 seconds left. The only thing that's at least good news for AFX and Sushi is that there isn't that much time here for Wildcard, and they do have a couple of players that are low health. So if they do slip up, they're not going to have that much time to amend things. But Wildcard's a team that's going to be very conventional here in their approach. They know what they're doing. They've got a plan. They've got 7 seconds. They are leaving it very late, though. And I'm starting to worry a little bit here, but I shouldn't have.
Worry.
There was like 2 seconds left on the clock, guys.
It's the Wildcard way. It's the Wildcard way.
The 2-second meta for Wildcard, they get their out.
0 second meta, dude. That was they were leaving a lot of time by their standards at the end of that round. I mean,
no worries in the end.
Yeah, look, to be honest, all the damage is really done in the first 30 seconds of that round, and unfortunately for LFO, a valiant attempt there on the roam, but if you give away picks for free like that, it really does nullify the whole point, which is to waste time and sink utility. So, fortunate there for LFO, and it's a good kickstart to Wildcard's momentum on the attack half.
Yeah, and it just furthers that lead, now makes it 2-5, and goes back to that sort of analogy that I mentioned before, that fork in the road. Is this going to be a close affair? Is this going to be a tight tussle? Or is Wildcard going to be like the Wildcard of old and pull away and get the win they're expecting to get? Again, unless you're Death Martyr. And so, you know, now they've got this little 3-gap lead. They've got a bit of breathing room. Suddenly there's basically no pressure on their attacks. They can just come in, play with house money. And LFO are the ones who are pressured here, and they may make mistakes. They haven't really made too many mistakes. Like, even in that last round for LFO, it's easy to sit back and look, I might have thrown out a too aggressive comment. Even then, I might actually retract that comment and say I don't think they did anything too wrong. They were looking to find a pick like you should be trying to do.
Must have done something pretty remarkable for Xenox to change his
I
mind.
know.
That doesn't happen very often. In fact, that's probably the first time I have ever heard you change your mind about anything. Yeah.
Which just makes it harder, I guess, for LFO, right? Because we're sitting here saying they haven't done too much wrong, yet they're down to 5.
Yeah, I mean, again, Siege can definitely come down to really fine margins, and at the end of the day, Wildcard, that edge of experience, as we mentioned in the pre-show, was probably going to be one of the defining factors in this matchup, and so far, I think that has reigned true. LFO, for the most part, have played quite well, but when they have slipped up, Wildcard have been right there, like the boogeyman, right behind them, staring them down the barrel and anticipating every mistake. A really difficult position that LFO find themselves in, but at least in this round, they haven't dropped any bodies in the first 45 seconds, so already better than last round.
Yeah, little improvements, baby steps, that's really what you want in that situation. But yeah, LFO is a team that's capable of being able to bring this one back and get back involved, especially on the defense. It's not uncommon to get 2 rounds. It's not ideal, though, if you're continuing to lose these opening picks and Wildcard continue to get these advantages. And look, it's starting to slip away.
Wait, what?
In con?
How though? Was Pat on like the boost spot on the hatch? He must have been. There's like a weird angle you can get. Must have been that.
Oh, when you go on that little vent?
Yeah, when you go on the vent, you like look
I think
through
he's
the
got it.
fencing.
Yep.
Yeah, must have been that.
Yep.
Oh, that's unlucky for Deptra. Yeah, wow. I think it might have been even a wallbang as well. So.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, Deptra himself admitting that it's not quite his day, and we have seen. We saw that kill a little bit earlier against Milo, absolutely destroying him. So look, just hasn't been, and he is currently, unfortunately, on a doughy as Emerin cleans up one with a Claymore. Starting to fall apart a little bit here for LFO. Desperate gamer hours for the boys looking for an AUG. Wildcard pouncing on every opportunity.
Well, if they didn't change the way the stats are shown, he would have been 007, but they changed it, so now it's not quite as funny. Sushi, though, does get a kill back onto Pat. There's a bit of revenge for Deptra.
Oh.
But every time that LFO get one, there's another one back, and Wildcard continue to just maintain their lead.
Oh, Nitro from Hills. Of all the players on LFO, Hills
the
has
pressure.
really been showing up,
no.
but the Rotero forces his hand. Emo cleans up the last, and Wildcard are really starting to pounce now.
That is just pressure personified right there. The little like 1-8 ended up almost being a 360 spinning around in a circle because I can't go here. Oh, there's a Rotaro drone. Oh, there's a guy shooting me from, bedroom. It's just relentless. And that is something we haven't seen from Wildcard in a while. And it's good to see for Wildcard that it's back, guys. That, they're just going to pounce. It's almost like a lion eating a gazelle. This is a slaughter right now from Wildcard. They're playing this so well. It's methodical. It's the Wildcard of old making a reappearance here, unfortunately for LFO, which, LFO as a team are sitting in 5th place right now. They're 1-0-2. They dominated against Rafflecopter. They had a really good game against Aura and honestly not too bad against Bliss either. They're not a weak opponent. The Wildcard are making this look easy.
Yeah, it does feel like 2020 Wildcard, the roster that, of course, went to Invitational just prior to that. I believe it would have been late 2019, right? Tokaname, they were strong there as well. And yes, there's been a lot of changes in the roster, but at its core, the team has maintained a pretty unique sort of playstyle. Their DNA has remained pretty true. And of course, to the start of 2020, when Diesel left, it was compromised quite a bit, and we did see Wildcard go through some struggles, but we are slowly starting to see that fate change around. Moloska joining on board has really given this team a breath of fresh air. And, look, I mean, we have to take it one game at a time. We don't want to make big sweeping statements, but the result last night in APAC South and what should be a win here as Milo kicks it off in the match point round in OCN is looking really good.
Yeah, and this is also what we were saying in the first half. It's very difficult at times when you look at a map like Clubhouse and say, oh, defender-sided, or, 2-4 half the Wildcard. You kind of expect that. LFO is going to be able to match it, but it's easier said than done, and it's why the statistics don't always, play out like they do. The way this is shaping up, especially now with that opening pick onto Hills, you're almost looking at a 3-0 attacking half here for Wildcard. So, what could have been maybe if this was the first half, what we would be saying is, wow, this is disastrous for LFO. Ultimately, it's just been a masterclass from Wildcard on both ends, defense and offense.
Prone peek here from one of the defenders, right of screen for LFO. Pat could be exposed, but I don't think he will be. It is Deptra picking through the drone hole, but nothing really comes of it. The wall now has been popped by Wildcard, and Emo Rin can impact it open.
Look at Oscar.
One minigame down.
13-3-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's not bad, is it?
Minute and a half remaining, and it's almost do as you please right now for Wildcard. So they sweep through. Obviously clearing out logistics and in bedroom and make their way over towards Cash and CCTV. Sushi rotates back over towards main stairs and makes his way into kitchen, throws up a Nitrocell looking for Geo. Geo does not even flinch.
He took a little bit of damage and then went off his drone for half a second. He's like, oh, that happened, and then jumped straight back on it. Good position though. Wildcard find themselves in, and now Pat can work himself over towards the wall. Gets close enough to get the mute indicator, knows that there is a jammer preventing Milo from opening it. Now he might use his torch to expose those mute jammers, or his Roteros could do the job. Unfortunately, Vinny does get his first muted, which makes things difficult. Pat will send a nade over, and that should clear the jammer. Milo will follow that up onto the yellow ping, and LFO are really going to feel the pressure in a moment.
Yeah, and it's getting down to Wildcard clock time. 30 seconds left as they finally get to work opening up this con wall. This is where almost LFO need to maybe switch from defense to offense, just try and catch Wildcard off guard and find a kill or two. And fortunately, Wedables did get one onto Vinny, but the trades are favoring Wildcard as they usually do. Deptra getting at least Emo Rin here. He's going to be able to hit some of these shots. He's expecting the push from behind, but it's not going to be coming from behind. They're both over towards top red. Plank goes down anyway. Now they don't, and they do have the information. And LFO's day for Playday 4 is coming to an end, unfortunately, pretty quickly. Sushi, the sole remaining player, versus both Moloska and Geo. With that plant down, he's only got 25 seconds. He's roughly about half health as well, and he's dead. It's easy as that. 7-2 for Wildcard. they're looking pretty good right now over the last couple of days as they storm through stage 2 so far with a bit of form.
Wildcard put on a clinic, a 7-2 dub to wrap things up, and you can see that they're pretty happy with that result, and why wouldn't you? Milo as well, what a bloody good performance from him. 14 kills in only 9 rounds, and he was playing hard bridge, so you cannot complain with that. And finally, Wildcard can start to build some momentum in OCN.
A clean 7-2 for Wildcard, and yeah, it's critical. They can now build some momentum inside of OCN, along with obviously their ongoing performances inside of APAC South as well. So it's just all happy times at Wildcard right now, Guz, which is a stark contrast to the way things were going, obviously, for stage 1. So obviously, Molluska looks like he's fitting in more than fine, and as a team, they're starting to gather a bit of that momentum moving forward here for stage 2. They're looking good.
Yeah, they are looking good. Now, the question, of course, still remains, can they maintain this momentum and establish consistency as the stage goes forward? It's all well and good, of course, to defeat LFO, who were 5th heading into this play day, but when they start to verse some more difficult opponents, we need to see them continue to step up their game. Overall, though, for Wildcard, it was just a solid performance. I mean, this was a pretty straightforward game in the end. There was nothing too crazy going on. It was just pretty straightforward, expected clubhouse. But at the end of the day, Wildcard were just more proficient.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there was really anything that stood out too much. Wildcard, as you said, proficient. They were a team that was a bit more clinical. They were able to get a few more opening picks. Moments like that one, I think that's just such a pivotal moment in the match, right? LFO looking to be aggressive, looking to find a pick or two. That's really what you want, especially with the setup that they had. Couldn't obviously get it done. And from there, I think the map was almost over from that position onwards because it was just all Wildcard. And honestly, they answered what was a bit of a comeback. Well, not comeback, right? I mean, LFO, as you can see, rounds 3 and 4, they won 2 in a row, and you start to wonder, ooh, have we got ourselves a game here? When that fork in the road came, though, it was all Wildcard. They went and won the next 5 in a row, made this easy, a 7-2 victory, something they probably haven't had in quite some time, and especially for OCN, where, you know, they lost to Bliss in Playday 1. They had an 8-7 victory against Rhythm. That's as close as it can get against the bottom team in OCN. This is a big win for them and their confidence and their points. It puts them into 5th.
Yeah, big result there as we had a peek at the stats. A 3.62 for Milo. That is... might want to get the calculator out and recheck that one, because that might be the highest player rating I have seen in the last 6 years of competitive Siege. So props to Milo, but nonetheless warranted a good score because he was really impactful. And as I mentioned, he was fulfilling that hard breach role. So that's just impressive nonetheless. And look, it wasn't all him, right? As we saw time and time again, LFO, it is a hallmark of them to play quite aggressive. Nothing wrong with that, but it was their demise at the end of the day, and Wildcard as a whole shut that down. I'm not sure whether that was the game plan necessarily heading into this matchup, but they seem to be ready for it.
Well, Wildcard, they were kind of a dream attack to watch, weren't they, Guz? As we're going to go and have a chat with Vinny. Always a nice smile on his dial. Although this time, Vinny, it kind of feels like maybe job done more than anything. It was just sort of that clinical, almost old-school Wildcard approach.
Yeah, it's awesome when I can just sit back and let the boys go off a bit. So it's just a great game from us, and you know, just showing kind of what we used to do, which was be clinical against teams that kind of struggled against that. So yeah, it's good signs.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear, Milo, how are things going at the moment? Obviously, last night was pretty good for you guys in APAC South, and fair to say you're looking to transition that a little bit more into your OCN results. Just give us your insight as to how the team's sort of tracking at the moment. I feel like this is a question that we're constantly asking, but the growth process for you guys is pretty ongoing at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's continuing to move forward and getting Milo in. We knew that he was somebody that was very strong with his comms, and he was somebody that could bring that extra layer of kind of IGLing and you know, clinicalness, like a better word, to the team, which we've been missing for a little while. And yeah, I mean, every game we get stronger, every scrim we get stronger, so it's just continuing to track forward.
Was there anything that stood out for you in that game, Vinny, that maybe you guys haven't had over the last, I don't know, couple of weeks, couple of months? Was there anything that you thought that you were like, oh, we're kind of back here, we're looking really good, we're looking sharp?
Nothing surprising, I don't think. The most surprising thing was probably how easy the rounds came in the end. We kind of did a little bit of background work on LFO over the last couple of days and kind of read into a few of the things that we're going to do, but more than that, we were just playing our game and making sure that all ends met, and that's kind of just showed on the scoreboard.
Yeah, pretty big week for you guys next week. You've got the Knights, of course, in APAC South, and then the Chiefs in OCN. What's the prep looking like heading into those two?
Same as always, just make sure we're ready on the day. We know that Knights is probably our biggest challenge so far by the first week in terms of APAC South, and they're looking very strong at the moment, so that'll be a good win for us if we can get it. And then Chiefs and OCN, they're the reigning champs, so see how we stack up in our current lineup and how we can kind of deal with that kind of play style, which I don't think we have yet, to be honest. So it should be good.
Yeah, you got a bit of a tough run home there. Chiefs, Knights, and Rafflecopter as well, your final 3 matches. So this very much was a must-win game. Congratulations again, Vinny, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Tough run home for Wildcard. Of course, they needed these 3 points, really, against LFO, and they got all 3 points in a 7-2 victory. They looked very good, guys, and I got to say, would you agree with me? The best we've seen from Wildcard since maybe like even last year?
Oh, making these blanket statements, dude, they're dangerous. They're very, very dangerous. I always love to be a little bit cautious and just wait and see how the next couple of weeks play out. I mean, the big positive we can take out, though, is this is Wildcard's first regulation win of OCN.
Yeah.
Going into this, they only had 2 points, so they take the 3 tonight, which will really boost them up the standings and keep that mid-table really, really close. So not only is that great for Wildcard, but it's good for everyone at home that isn't a fan of Wildcard because it keeps the standings nice and close and nice and exciting.
Certainly does. We're going to go to a quick break. On the other side, though, it's going to be Order versus Rafflecopter.
Attackers drop the bomb.
Welcome to GTV ANZ, the gaming channel created by Ubisoft. Every Tuesday and Friday on YouTube, we'll be doing fast plays, game challenges, 1v1 face-offs, and so much more. You happy?
When did we get a dog?
It's a good question.